Welcome back to the Odyssey. So about 10 years ago I got this truck and I intended to convert it so I can turn it into a camper here. And the first few steps to that process were redoing the cab. So let's take a look around. I'll show you what I did in here and what I'm about to do. So my primary goal last time was to deal with this. When I first got the truck, it had some open cell foam up in here stuck on with I don't know what. It was not effective. It was coming down, it was coming apart. I don't know how long it had been there. So I stripped it all down, repainted everything, and then put up this Dynadecking. It's a closed cell foam product with a rubber backing on it that you can see here. It makes for a really nice finished look, and I was able to stick it up there with a combination of headliner adhesive and silicone. I went ahead and added the extra bonding power of silicone just because I noticed the first time I put it up there the other adhesive was not doing the job. So once I got the top taken care of, I decided to just start putting it everywhere I could fit it. Now you'll see that there are some places here that it's just not put in very well, and then others I did a little bit better job. Up here in the corner. So then with the material I had left, I started soundproofing the rest of the cab. So you can see down in here behind this console I've got a little bit more in the lower portion of the cab, and then over there in the corner you can see regular Dynamat where I ran out of material and just wanted to put something up in there. So today's the day I'm going to add all the parts that I didn't have enough material for last time. But along with this, I wanted to make the truck a little more comfortable. So I installed a semi-truck aftermarket AC system right here. This is 24 volt, runs off the standard truck electrical system. It's not designed to go in this truck obviously, but it's here anyway. I've got a compressor issue with it. Mainly the military was using the location on this engine where it was supposed to have the AC compressor, so I wasn't able to mount it on the engine like it should have been. But what we have instead is one sitting down under the fender. I'll show you at some point. I need to get an electric compressor to deal with this. Then I also removed the glove box. Let's see if this will open. Kind of. Oh, look at that. The mud daubers have been in there too. So what we have up in here is a 24 volt 4 duct heater. I'm going to have to clean all that out of there, but that's okay. This does a really good job. I've got 2 ducts pointed forward and then 2 going up to the defrost up here at the window. There's one right there. I'll close this up for now and get back into it later. Then for the seats, I had a different plan. So for those of you who have driven a deuce and a half or an early 5-ton, you know that they've got a spring seat on the driver's side and typically a rigid mounted bench on the passenger side. Well, I drove it back from Idaho to my original house, and it was okay, but I figured if I wanted to drive it thousands of miles at a time, I wanted to have better seats. So I got these Corbeau buckets here. These are the wide version. And then I designed this air ride base. Let's see if I can get a little light in there for you. So what you have is a 4-link that I put together. The upper link is off on this side at the moment, but it's a 4-link and has an airbag up here in the front. I think you might be able to just see it underneath the framework there. It's right here. So a couple of problems with this. I intended to put a shock back here like the original seat had, but I couldn't find them at the time, so I never installed them. And the issue with this kind of a 4-link mount is this. So there's a lot of mobility here, and when the airbag is up, the seat can actually tilt forward and back, and I don't like that. It's not going anywhere, and with me sitting in it, it's stable enough. but it does have a lot of mobility to it. The other problem is I really didn't know how to build one of these when I did it. So what I used to try to control it is this setup back here. And what you have are a pair of standard regulators that would go on an air compressor. So I ran a line up from the original tanks down under the driver door up into here and then put this thing on here. So I can adjust these by turning them to add more pressure to the bag or take pressure away. It's nice because I can leave the bags deflated and then get in and set them when I want to. The problem is it's designed to maintain a certain amount of pressure, and I don't know if it's the leaking in the line or if it has something to do with the way these work, but ultimately as I was riding in it, I would find that my seat would continually get higher and higher and higher until my legs were touching the bottom of the steering wheel. Then I'd have to adjust the pressure down, and then it would always be a little bit under pressurized, and I'd have to do it again. So I could never seem to get it right. So anyway, I want to redo this, and I think now that I've got a chance to do it again, I'm going to see if I can get my hands on some proper air ride bases and maybe put a different set of seats in here. The other problem with this setup, these seats are awfully large. They take up a lot of room in a cab this size. So if you look down here, you can see there's not a lot of space between the dash and the seat. It's comfortable, sure, but I would love to have the seats a little bit further back. And the problem is, right back here, this is weather stripping. I tried to put in here because the seats actually rub against this portion of the top. Now I considered the possibility of just putting a piece of sheet metal across back here just to give it something larger to rub against, but I never got around to it. So I don't know, it works out okay, but I think I'd like to have a seat that is maybe a little bit smaller front to back. Maybe something closer to a captain's chair, I don't know. And I might even want to install a swivel on it. Granted, these seats I couldn't do that with. There's not enough room to swivel them around this console. But maybe, we'll see. So anyway, I put some carpet in down here. Obviously there's not a carpet kit for this truck as far as I know, so this was something that I put together and had some parental help since I wasn't a good seamstress at the time. I do have Dynamat down under the floor, under the carpet. And it helps a little bit. And you can see up in here, I added some more Dynadecking along some of the exposed pieces of the firewall. So it's not perfect by any means, but it was a little bit, and it was what I could do at the time. So my plan this time around is to remove these seats. I'm going to take out the console and the AC. The good part about this is I never actually got the plumbing hooked up on the air conditioning, so I can just unhook that line and not have to worry about it. It's not like I'll be emptying refrigerant into the air. So I'm going to take all this out, take the carpet out, and I've got some better insulation to put in under the carpet. Well, we're getting there. Got both seats out now. And I've removed the air conditioner from the back of the console here. So I've got these 4 bolts to go, 2 on each side, and I'll be able to take that out. Then I can start cleaning up this carpet and see if I can salvage it. It should work out okay, I hope. The trick's going to be getting rid of everything that's up in here. So we'll get there eventually, but it's a work in progress. See y'all shortly. Well, we got everything out so far. Did a little bit of cleanup on the carpet, but I need to do a little more. So you can see down here, the seat frames are removed, the console's removed. Over here, we have the plumbing and electrical for the air conditioning. Up top here is the pneumatic manifold that I had my air ride seats plugged into. My plan is to replace those with a more complete air ride system, so I shouldn't need them actually. show you what else we got in here. Alright. So there's still a bit of a mess down here on the floor I need to clean up, but the good news is that is much better off than I expected it to be. There's still some mess up in here I need to get rid of, but mostly things are clean. So I've also got a big vibration coming from the heater when I turn it on. Here, let me show you. Hear that? So I'm confident there's something built up inside there, so I'm going to need to take it down. It's easy enough to do. So what we have up here underneath, you've got these two mounts, one on each side of the heater. So I'll have to disconnect the water lines. Sorry about the noise there. There you can see one of the water lines, the other one's up above it. So I'll need to disconnect those. I'll have to separate the ductwork down here. And then on both sides, I've got these mounts to disconnect. And I should be able to take the heater down and clean it out. Also, this right here is a problem. So I put it here because I didn't have enough duct to get it where I wanted it, and I wanted to at least finish it. The problem is, what I really wanted was to put it over, where is it? Over here. So that would be much better. It's still in a location where I shouldn't have any issue with it hitting my foot or my knee, and it'll actually provide a little more heat for me as the driver. So I want to move it. I need to get a little bit more duct work, mainly because when you shift this, there we go. So you notice that is right where that thing's sitting, and unfortunately I would need to rebend this shifter if I wanted to leave it as is. So that's 5th gear, and there is 2nd. So in both cases, 2 of the gears that I use the most are right there where that thing's sitting. Now reverse is over here, and those 2 holes are over there. So even if I had to move it a little bit this direction, it would still clear reverse, so I think I want to put that there. Granted, my ultimate intent is to swap out this manual transmission for a more modern automatic like an Allison. So we'll see how that goes. But getting there, I'm going to pull the carpet up, and let me see if I can show you what it's like underneath. So we've got Dynamat down here already, but I've got that padding that I showed you earlier that I want to put down here. So the trick is, I've done a little testing now that everything's out of the cab. I started the engine and just kind of crawled around in here and listened to everything to see where the noise was coming from. And guess what? It's all coming from down under the carpet down here. So I do intend to put a little bit more. You see some of the Dynadecking that I put up here from previous to cover some of the firewall. But I do want to put a little bit more up here. If you can see it, we've got quite a bit of space up in here that I can still attach some material to. So I'm going to try to quiet it down a little bit and see if I can pull this ductwork down and maybe put a little bit more behind it too. Yes, I know, things are a bit of a mess up in there. But ultimately, I think getting some padding and a little more noise deadening under this carpet is going to make a big difference. So we'll pull the carpet up. You can see down in here, I put some sheet metal screws in at some of the points just to try to keep it down. So there's not much holding it down in the back, just up front for the most part. The other thing I realized, if I wanted to, I could do the same thing that some Jeeps have and put a couple of speakers down here in the middle. That would give me another layer of sound protection from what's going on under the floor. And it might actually give me something I can use, so we'll see. I'll take a look at that and see if I can make anything work. But for now, I'm just going to remove the carpet and I'll show you what it looks like without it. Got the carpet back out again. You can see I had already put down some Dynamat down here, cut down the vibration a little bit. I've got this little piece that I kept separate. Down in here is where your master cylinder is located. I've installed a remote reservoir on mine to make it a little easier to access, but I'll cut a chunk out of the padding when I put it down also. We'll keep working on that. First thing I'm going to do though, back here in the back, these are the spots where I ran out of this Dynadeck. So I've got another roll of this stuff now. So I'm going to place some down in here in the corner, and you can see on the other side I've got the same problem. So we'll fill in those areas and a little bit of extra down along here just to complete the process. And we'll keep going. And this is why we need some good door seals on that truck. This is the inside of the air conditioner. It's a good thing mud daubers don't seem to be aggressive around here. But my word, did they fill this thing up. There are a couple of them up inside the squirrel cage. I think I can get to them now. But that is a mess. Yeah. It's going to take a little while. Most of these I'm pretty sure are dead. But I did find one live wasp a little while ago when I was poking around in here. So I'll just have to be a little careful. Oh well, all part of the fun. Well, check this out. This is all the stuff I got from inside that air conditioner. Since I know I can't get these doors to seal properly, I'm just going to have to make sure that I get in there more often and just discourage the wasps from taking up nests. I suppose it's sort of a good thing. They spend all their time in this and didn't spend a lot of time in the rest of the cab, but man, I have not seen this many in one place before. Well, fun, I suppose. At least we're clean now. I do need to replace some of the insulation that was along the inside of this. I'm not sure how much of this you can see, but obviously when they adhere themselves to things, it has a tendency to make a mess, so I might cut a little bit of this out and see if I can replace it with some better material. Try to put it back in the condition it was before. Welcome back to another day of soundproofing. Alright, this is the 5-ton again. I know for you guys it hasn't been very long, but for me it's been probably about a month. So, what I'm going to do next, I've got these areas over here that are just Dynamat covered, and over there in the other corner as well. So I'm going to cut and install some Dynadecking to finish off this rear portion. So what Dynadeck is, it's this stuff right here. So you've got this closed cell foam down underneath here, and then you got this nice rubberized edge on here. Makes a really nice finished product. So all I need to do is measure the spaces I need to fill in here and start cutting some pieces out, and then I'll show you how we put the adhesive on. So obviously in here, something to keep in mind, around here, if I can show you this, this extends in behind there a little bit, so I'm going to need to make sure that I measure that full size when I cut this piece. And I do want to keep it off of these bolts just in case I need to remove those in the future. But yeah, we'll cut a couple and show you what they look like. When working with this Dynamat, I find the easiest way to cut it is to measure it out with a tape measure, since I'm working with pieces that are a little bigger than my square. Then using the square to make sure I keep my angles right, I do my first cut with a utility knife like this one, just to get through the foam, and then I use a set of outdoor shears to cut through the rubber itself. So 2 runs, but it makes it pretty even. As you can see, I think you can see, down here my cuts aren't perfectly vertical, but that's okay. I'm just using this in a 5-ton, so it's not like it needs to be perfect. So we'll get this piece cut, and that'll be the second corner, and I'll show you what they look like when they're in there. So light on here for you. There we are. Oh look, there's a wasp trying to build another nest. Sorry guys, you're not going to get that chance. So there's that corner in place. That one was pretty easy to put in. Obviously had to work it up underneath the metal there, but that's not too bad. Still have that angled piece to go and an extra sliver in here. Same thing on this side. This one was a bit of a pain. So obviously again had to fish it up behind the metal. Then I had these guys down here, and yes, I could disconnect that, but I chose not to. So we'll see. What I might do is cut this right along its length here, just to make it easier to install the two pieces. But as it is now, that'll slide up a little bit higher, and that should fit in there pretty nicely. So now the trick's going to be adhesive. Now, the way these are designed, you're supposed to put adhesive on the back of the material and on the surface it's going onto. Let it dry for a few seconds and then stick them together. Now the thing that I've noticed when I did some of the rest of this was that adhesive dries pretty quickly. So the other issue behind it is it seems, I'm using the heavy-duty headliner adhesive, spray-on adhesive. That stuff, once it sticks, it seems to be pretty much on there. You can do a little bit of adjustment, but nothing major. So this one is the one that worries me a little bit. Anyway, I think I'm going to cut it across the middle, see if I can make it a little easier to install, and go from there. But yeah, this ought to work out pretty nicely, I hope. And I'll show you the process of putting some adhesive on one of these as well. When you're applying the adhesive, you want to make sure that you get a good even coating on both sides. So you can see I've gone over this one about 4 times with it. It's a pretty thick coating, but I want to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And I've done the same thing on the inside. So I'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll put this piece on. Okay, here too, hopefully you can see some of the discoloration, the yellow coloring on it. That's the adhesive. So I just sprayed the whole thing. Got a little bit of overspray on the wires here, but that's all right. It's just conduit. All right, so I'm going to fish this piece in. I cut it off right at this position here. So I'll see if I can get this one to fit in place, and then we'll put the lower one in as a second piece. There we go. It was a bit of a pain to get it up in there, but it's in place. I'm sure people who do this frequently have much better ways of putting this on than I do. You can see over here I've got a little bit of a gap still, but at least it's on there, and it's a much better application than I would have expected. It'll definitely do a better job than the Dynamat did. So let me get the other piece prepped, and I'll see if I can slide it in behind these wires for you. Well, it's not exactly what I had hoped for, but it's really close, so that should do the trick. Besides, this is going to be behind the seats. Nobody will ever see it. I might see about dropping one more small piece in here just to finish that off, but it doesn't really have to. We'll see how it goes. So, still have these to finish. Same thing over here, and I still need to glue that one in over there. So I'll get some adhesive on that side, and then I'll see about cutting these other pieces for you. Well, we're in. Unfortunately, this one stuck a little too soon. I wanted to slide it a little deeper into that crevice, and the middle section all along here got stuck because I wasn't paying attention. But now that it's here, I don't want to bother with it. It's close enough. And that will definitely improve the noise deadening and temperature around this corner. So it's better. It's better. At least the pieces that are left should be pretty easy to work with. This one here, obviously I've got to get behind this little piece of copper, but it shouldn't be a problem. It's pretty far out. And then the rest of these don't have anything in the way. So I'll take some measurements and cut some pieces. We'll see if we can't finish up this cab. All right, and we've got the last of the Dynadeck in place. So I showed you this piece already. This one's in. And over here I added a couple of patch pieces down this side to finish this part out. I could add a little bit more in here if I wanted to. We'll see. I'm not too interested in doing that necessarily, but I might. And then over here I got another piece down below the AC lines. coming up here, and then a little leftover piece up in there. And then you can see this corner over here. So the cab is pretty much set as far as this material is concerned. Got a nice layer of it all the way around. So my next couple of steps with the cab, I need to remove the heater and see if I can figure out why it sounds like there's a mud dauber nest up inside the blower. And once I get that part done, I'd like to add a little bit more decking, sorry for the noise, up in here. See that? If I can put a little bit more up in there, I think we'll be pretty clear. Now that's going to be a little bit harder to do, just with everything up there, but it'll work out okay. Then I considered the possibility of putting some decking around this inner portion of the door frame, down along here. Putting it on the door itself, I thought about it, but the problem with that is I'll have to make sure to keep it inside this line. Obviously, the door closes pretty tight in here. And I would need to have a separate piece that goes over the access panel as well. So we'll see. I might do that just to make it a little more finished. It might add a little bit of noise deadening to it. But once I get those next couple of steps done, I should be pretty close. So I'm going to call this a video, and we'll get this one uploaded here soon. And yes, it's hot outside at the moment. I think it's probably pushing 100 degrees. But we'll keep working on it, and I'll see you in the next video and over the next horizon.